Avast me hearties, it be talk like a pirate day out on the open ocean. Lake. So for those of you who don't know, September 19th of every year is International Talk Like a Pirate Day, which I figure gives me the perfect chance to try out my new tricorn hat and a little bit of the Halloween costume I've been preparing. Just finished the tricorn hat earlier this week. Very ecstatic about that. And I thought that it being Talk Like a Pirate Day and all, give me a chance to also tell you guys a little bit of what I learned about pirates.
Yo-ho, a pirate's life for me. We pillage, we plunder, we rifle and loot. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. We kidnap and ravage and don't give a hoot. Bring up, me hearties, yo-ho. Yo-ho, yo-ho, a pirate's life for me. We extort, we pilfer, we filch and sack. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. Maraud and embezzle and even hijack. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho.
And really bad eggs. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. Oh, ahoy. So, I thought I'd start with a little bit of what we know as the pirate genre, or subgenre as it were. Let's start with a little book known as Treasure Island, written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Stevenson created a lot of the things that we consider piratey. That includes guy with one leg, guy with a parrot, the black spot, names like Black Dog and Billy Bones, cutlasses, treasure maps, or the works. And everything that involves pirates today, movies, books, video games, all took inspiration from that first story by Robert Louis Stevenson. Now, something that doesn't exactly come across in books is an accent. Now, where we get the idea of the pirate voice actually came from the first live-action Disney film, subsequently titled Treasure Island, based off the same book. That film had Robert Newton playing the character Long John Silver, where he applied the pirate accent that we've all come to know and love. And it just kind of stuck. Of course, there wasn't any one singular pirate accent, because pirates came from all sorts of nationalities. Stevenson's work especially influenced one of the most popular Disney rides ever, created in 1967, Pirates of the Caribbean, which featured the debut of the song Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me, with music by George Bruns and lyrics by Xavier Atencio. Really hope I'm saying that name right. Of course, the ride inspired one of my favorite movie series of all time, Pirates of the Caribbean, which took all the pirate stuff we love from Robert Louis Stevenson, but they also kind of made it their own and brought some new things to the genre. I mean, you still get a little bit of that pirate accent from a few characters, but then you also get some that are, just English or Johnny Depp. Or one of the things that I love about the Pirates of the Caribbean isn't just that it's a pirate film. I mean, I love that it's a pirate film, but they also bring in aspects from other stories and other mythologies. Like, both Jack Sparrow and Hector Barbossa embody two sides of the traditional mythological character of the trickster. The trickster is a common type of character in many stories. Cherokee legends had tricksters in the form of the rabbit. Foxes are often depicted as the trickster. Of course, common features in those movies, Tortuga and Port Royal were real places and were frequented by pirates and sailors alike. Despite the fact that of a lot of the things that we've come to know as pirates that weren't maybe necessarily accurate all of the time, or there are a few things about the real age of pirates that are pretty cool, such as the code. So pirates often had a code that they worked by. Now, there wasn't like a singular code that you see in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but each ship had their own code of rules to live by. Something I find interesting is food around the time, because sailors would often take with them some kind of a bread called a hardtack. Now, this was made to last months at a time. Eating it months later doesn't quite sound too appetizing, especially when you realize that they'd often knock the hardtack on a table to knock the weevils out before eating it. And if you're going to put the hardtack in a soup or something, you'd put it in water first and wait for the maggots to rise to the surface. Other things that they ate were often spicy foods, just to disguise the rot. And there was also a drink called grog, which was water, rum, and lemon juice or lime juice kind of all mixed together. Now, the ships the pirates used weren't usually these massive warships. Usually there were these small schooners that could get in, siege a ship, and get out quickly. Now, even though all pirates were technically criminals, a lot of them became pirates really because they didn't feel like they had much of another option. During the 16 and 1700s, the Royal Navy had what was called pressed men. In other words, these are people who would be forced into the Navy against their will, and usually paid less than volunteers if they were paid at all. These pressed men would be strapped to the ship when they made port so they wouldn't get away. So unsurprisingly, when pirates came along and would commandeer the ship and offer the crew members to join their pirate crew, well, for a lot of them, they're like, hey, can't be any worse a life than I've already been living. One famous example of this was Black Bart Roberts, who, as far as I know, didn't actually want to be a sailor in the first place. His ship was attacked by pirates. They gave him the option to join their crew. He did, and 6 weeks later became their captain. Which is another interesting thing about pirates, is because they were actually fairly democratic. You had to be elected to be a captain. And at one point during the golden age of piracy, there was even a pirate republic. Pirates didn't really care where you came from. Like escaped slaves or women would join a pirate crew, and they'd be pirates. Like, everyone had an equal share, no matter who you were. In a lot of ways, they're far more forward-thinking than a lot of countries at the time. First, we have Calico Jack Rackham. He was a captain, and he's really famous for pretty much 2 things. 1, he had an awesome flag, and 2, he had 2 very famous female pirates in his crew. They're actually more famous than him. They're Anne Bonny and Mary Read. Now, Calico Jack Rackham was the lover and later married Anne Bonny, and they wanted to do various piratey things together. And on one of the ships they raided, there was a woman disguised as a boy named Mary Read. Now, she's pretty awesome. I remember saying that she had a boyfriend on the crew who was challenged to a duel, and he really wasn't much of a fighter, so she actually got the guy who challenged him to a duel to challenge her to a duel, and she beat him, which is awesome. Jack Rackham and Mary Read were eventually executed in 1720, and no one really knows what happened to Anne Bonny. She was arrested, but presumably escaped. You also had Grace O'Malley, who was an Irish captain, and she had about 200 pirates in her crew. And another famous female captain is Chin Shi, also hope I'm pronouncing that right. She operated in Asia, and I believe had 1,500 ships under her command, so she was actually a pirate admiral. A couple pirates I learned about recently are Jean Lafitte, who actually had a movie about him called The Buccaneer. Now, this guy operated in the early 1800s to smuggle goods into New Orleans, and the governor of Louisiana did not like this guy. He actually offered a reward of $300 for Jean Lafitte. Now, keep in mind at this time that $300 was a huge amount of money back then. So Jean Lafitte responded by putting a $1,000 reward for the capture of the governor instead. Another famous pirate was Benjamin Hornigold, who was called by one writer as the Emperor Palpatine to Blackbeard's Darth Vader. Now, Hornigold is an interesting fellow. He started off his pirate career with just a few canoes and later ended up with a 30-gun warship. In addition, he was unusual in a few other ways because he once raided a boat and demanded only their hats because his crew had gotten drunk and lost all of their hats the night before. But unfortunately, his crew didn't quite have his goals. They booted him out and elected Blackbeard as their new leader. Didn't work out so great for them, but it actually turned out great for Hornigold. He retired and then later became a pirate hunter, hunting down some of the same people that he was working alongside with before. Now, since we mentioned Blackbeard, he's arguably the most famous pirate in history. He ended up being captain of the Queen Anne's Revenge, which was a massive 40-gun warship. Like I said, it didn't quite work out so well for him or his men. He died in 1718, was beheaded after a battle against the Royal Navy. Now, even though the subgenre we've come to know as the pirate story isn't entirely historically accurate, it's not supposed to be. I mean, if it was historically accurate, we wouldn't have stories of cursed pirates or walking skeletons or Davy Jones' octopus face. The pirate stories we've come to love are really fantasy adventure genres with elements of history in them. They give us characters who live in shades of gray, who are morally complex, be it in Pirates of the Caribbean or Princess Bride. It gives us characters that we can relate to, that we want to succeed for some reason, even though they exist outside of the law. But despite that fact, these characters are often portrayed as good characters or good people. And they're often put in a situation or shown at a time where the law wasn't really right. But more importantly, they provide us with an escape. They give us a good story. They give us an excuse to dress up and pretend we're not, living in the 21st century for a while. But they also give us the means, the opportunity, and the motivation to learn a bit, to go back and see what history was like, to see where we came from. Anyway, be sure to have some fun today. Pop in a pirate film, make some hardtack, drink some bone soup, eat some spicy food. But before you do any of that, subscribe and share it with your friends. And drink up, me hearties. It's a pirate's life for me.
Yo-ho, a pirate's life for me. We kindle and char, inflame and ignite. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. We burn up the city, we're really a fright. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. We're beggars and fighters and ne'er-do-well cats. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. And I will laugh at mommies and dads. Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho. Yo-ho, yo-ho, a pirate's life for me.
And really badass.